When you get into the early spring, people start looking at their pots and they look in the ground and they think that they have lost their perennials. Well, why do perennials fail? Let's take a look at that. Hello, I'm Rosie Hardy. This is Rosie Hardy Gardening. If you enjoy our videos, please do subscribe to the channel. So basically, when you have plants in the garden and you think it hasn't come through, what are you looking at? Are you looking at dead material like this? So, and then going, oh, well, that's lifting off. Is there anything in there? A lot of the reasons for plants not coming back will be pest and disease. So for instance, you may find that something has started to return back into life, but there's been slug and snail damage taking off all of the new material as it comes up, so the plant never actually manages to come through. Or it could have had something that was a disease that you didn't notice in the autumn, and basically over the winter it has just succumbed to that. The other thing is that there could be other pests around, slightly larger than the mollusks. So things such as birds, especially pigeons and pheasants and partridge here in the UK can be really bad. Squirrels are another thing. Rats, other voles, etc. They can all get in there, especially if it's a cold winter or a dry winter. Then they're looking for food sources, so they will go and burrow down and they will chew their way through your plants. So that is a big reason why plants don't come back. The other thing would be waterlogging. Now, this is a real problem here in the UK. Over the last few winters, we have had really, really wet winters, and plants that are sitting in a puddle do not always come back. Some are perfectly fine, others just do not come back because the waterlogging has just meant that they have rotted off in the ground. So you're going to have to think about areas like that. What do you do? You might have to add in some helpful drainage, so when you are planting plants you might have to raise the areas that are there and get it a little bit higher. You can do mounds, so you could dig it out and have sort of drainage tracks through, and then have mounds which are drier so that your plant material is better. So that is something that you can think about. Or you can add in gravel, quite large gravel pieces in when you're putting the plants in, so that there is a way for the moisture to disappear and dissipate. So that is something else. The other thing is the previous season's stress. So you may not have realised that the plant has got under stress, and this could be, wet in the winter, really dry, really horrible growing conditions during the summer months and the autumn, and the plant has just got so badly stressed that it just won't continue and it won't keep on growing. So those are things that may be the issue that is there. So those are sort of the biggest reasons why they disappear. And can I just add one more in there, and that is you as a gardener can also be the reason that a plant doesn't survive, i.e. you've gone and looked at it, you've looked at a plant like this and you've gone, oh, that's dead, lifted it and thrown it away, when in actual fact it was going to reappear into growth a lot later in the season. So don't be too quick to get out there and go, oh, that's dead, I take it out. I mean, all very well, but the things to look at and see whether or not the plants actually failed or not is what you need to look. So what do you need to look for to make sure that the plants haven't failed? So for instance, I know perfectly well this is not going to survive. This was an annual biennial plant. It was a Cerinthe. This is the dead haulm that is on the top of it, and if I was to tip out the bottom here, you will see, although there is root in here, it is not root from that plant, and it is a root from a weed that is there. So there is nothing growing in here whatsoever. That is all completely dead, and it's not going to come back from that. So that is a completely dead plant. caput. Well, it wasn't going to come back anyway, because basically it is an annual perennial. So something else has put in root down there. Just tidy up my mess. So basically that is one reason. You know, you've forgotten that it was an annual or a biennial. The other thing would be also on that is the age of a plant. Not all perennials are going to live for 5, 6, 7 years. So a lot of the perennials that you have can be short-lived. So it could just be that it was the life expectancy of that plant. So that is something else to watch out for. The other thing to do is to have a look and see where the plants are growing from. So this is a Polygonatum in here, and it has got really tough root rhizomes here coming through. It is trying to grow, but it's a lot later coming up. So if it's obviously visible and they are solid, that's absolutely fine. If they're all squashy and mushy, then you know that's no good. But this isn't. This is all growing away nicely. That's going to come up a lot later. So it's knowing when the plant is going to be coming back into growth that is important. The other thing is this is a Phlox, and this Phlox, this is all the old growth from last year. This can all come off this now, and it can have that cut off, so that when you, we'll take that little bit off there, you can see it's starting to grow up. But I've got a little snail here, and that little snail has been chewing and munching one or two of these growths, and you can see there's damage on the leaves there. So if you have a look at stuff and it's got little munchies, have a check around, check that there aren't too many of the mollusks going in, but this is going to come up and come through perfectly well once it's got rid of those few mollusks that are there. So it's just starting to come through. Something else, this is an Epimedium. Now Epimediums are usually pretty good and it should have filled this pot, but it's only got a couple of growths on it like that. So I would suspect that something has eaten its roots, and therefore it's not coming back as well. So this is when you have to decide, is there enough of the plant there salvageable, or do you go, right, let's take it out, let's get rid of any insects that are perhaps eating the growth at the bottom and start again with a new plant. So this one is not happy. This one is going to be thrown away. It's really not worth trying to keep it going. So that is something to have a look at. You can also see with things is something like this one. This is a Digitalis. So this is a perennial Digitalis. And what happens with these is that the flowering stems from last year don't go through. They put on new growth at the side. So this one is ferruginea, a lovely tall perennial. So this bit is not going to regrow. This is what's going to regrow. So you have to watch out for things like that. So that you need to be aware that if it hasn't put any new growth on here, it probably won't. So that is a perennial foxglove doing its thing. The other thing that you can do if you've got things in pots is that you can check on the roots. So for instance, with this Polygonatum, you can see there's lots of lovely root here. There's new growth, new buds all coming through quite well on this. This actually needs a repot, but it is healthy. So that is the one thing you can do. You obviously can't do that if you've got a plant in the ground, but what you can do is just have a little dig around at the side of your plant and just check that the growth is all there and that the growth is solid. If the growth is all solid, then that is great and there'll be no problem whatsoever. But the key thing here is do not be too quick to take the plants out, because they may just be coming through a little bit later and will come up nicely. Now, if you've tidied up your plants and you're left with your stick here showing you that your plant is there, where is the growth in amongst here? This is a Rodgersia, and the Rodgersia is going to come up a lot later, and actually there is a little tiny bit of growth just here. and it's very, very difficult to see, so it's just coming through. So one thing to do is to double check and see whether it's firm in the ground. So even in the ground you can do that. If it's firm in the ground and it's perfectly okay, then it will be coming through. If it's, as I say, if the crown of it is really quite soft and it's a bit mushy, then no, it hasn't come through, and that's how you tell. But don't be too quick to go out there and check on things, because they will come through at their own pace. So for instance, the Rodgersia is not showing anything above ground. The Epimedium should be up, they should be flowering, they should be looking good. This earliest Phlox is putting on its shoots, so that's absolutely fine. My biennial here, annual, is definitely dead, so that's not going to happen. This perennial foxglove here is showing signs of life there. This bit is not going to come back. And my Polygonatum is, again, its pieces are there, its rhizomes are there, they're nice and solid, there's a little tiny bit of growth there, so they're all going to come through, they're all going to look really good. So what do you need to do to think about trying to avoid your perennials from actually failing and not coming back? And that is to, as I said initially, get rid of what is the main cause. So a lot of the main causes are waterlogging, so do something about the drainage, plant the plants somewhere different. The other thing is, are you somebody who tidies up a huge amount? Have you gone and cut back all the growth through the winter months and not allowed the plant to have protection over the top? If that's the case, then you need to think about that. You need to think about, how do I protect these plants? And the best way to protect the plants is leave the top growth there, because that then protects the base of the plant and it will stop it from happening again. And to be honest, that's one of the biggest causes of failure. The other thing is, have you gone out too early in the spring and gone, oh, I need to cut all this back and tidy it up, and then there's been, it's grown and there's been a frost and then it's got caught. So that is something to think about. It's how you treat the plants, what you do with them. Also, did you split them maybe at the wrong time? So therefore you went and split something in the autumn when really it should have been split in the spring when it's actively growing. And that is really important. So if you're in a frost pocket garden, then just do your splitting in the spring, because your plants will be so much better. They're actively growing, they can cope with it. You split them in the autumn and they sit there, going through that cold winter period, split, and then it gets colder and colder because you're a frost pocket. Then that is one reason why you may lose stuff. So change when you split your plants, that might help. Or if you are doing splitting and dividing, maybe your plants are better being potted up, being put into containers and then put back into the garden once the garden is at a point where the plants can grow and keep going. So I think that is something you need to think about. So a lot of failures in the garden can be due to what you are actually doing to the plant rather than the plant itself. Or it can be as simple as the wrong choice of plant. So you've gone and chosen a plant. So say you want to grow a camellia and you've got solid chalky soil. Not a good idea, because it's a plant that prefers it slightly acidic. You could grow that camellia in a container, and then you need to use rainwater to water it, not your tap water. So there are different things like that you need to be thinking about, why things actually fail. So as I say, the main reasons, and the main reasons will be waterlogging, disease and pests, and that will be the key thing to have a check on. Obviously you can't stop the squirrels and the voles and that sort of thing coming in too much, or the birds, but if you've got something that perhaps is going to get eaten, then get a container or something to put over the crown of a plant. So metal hanging baskets are brilliant to put over the crown of a plant. That will stop them being eaten. If it's something that's underneath the ground, then you're just going going to have to keep an eye on that. But stresses of previous season heat, water, etc., are all things that contribute to plants not going through and surviving through to the next season. And I think I've covered nearly everything that I can cover regarding that. Just something that I'd like to let you know about. We are launching Straightforward Gardening Club, and this is a membership only club whereby you can get all of your information about the gardening year from me. There is a private library of seasonal videos which you can view, and then also you get a chance to ask or say what videos you would like us to add into this membership. There will be live Q&A sessions, and there is a community space with me and with other members of the community. So look out for and join Straightforward Gardening Club. It's going to be exciting.